Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920 WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Pamel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you. Mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. Good morning, this is Dan Gaddis, and Happy New Year. Thank you for being with us today, this Monday, January 3rd, 25 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Shirley Stabe from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And we're bringing you into the first show of the year on this January 3rd, and it's 25 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. Let's see what else we have today when it comes to our weather. It is generally cloudy today with a high of 27. We don't get too high today. Mostly clear, low near 15 degrees tonight. And that is today. Tuesday is going to be sunny skies with a high of 36. And Tuesday night, partly cloudy, low around 25. And Wednesday, overcast, slight chance of a rain shower because the temperature goes up to 43 on Wednesday. And a few clouds on Wednesday night and a low around 30. So that's a little bit about our forecast for this week. And this is a Medical Monday, and we are with Dr. Eric Stamberg. And we thank you for being with us this morning also. And good morning, Dr. Stamberg. How are you?
All right, good morning. Welcome to the first show of the year. Happy New Year, Dan.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
It's nice to see winter. I mean, it's chilly out, but it's nice. I always like it when winter acts a little bit like winter. So I feel better with 25 to 30 degree weather than I do with 60 degree weather like we had a couple, last week.
Yeah, I mean, this is commensurate for this time of year.
That is correct.
It's perfect for this time of year. It's normal.
And it's also, driving in with it's still a little dark and it's so quiet. And, I guess it's always
kind
dark.
Of quiet. Yes, it was.
Yeah, before the dawn. But we're getting...
I hope everybody's furnace works.
Yeah, right. And
Mine
we are
isn't.
headed towards the dark of winter. And unfortunately, once again, when I'm preparing for this show the night before, or a couple days before, we have one thing that's going to dominate our discussion today because
Thank you.
There's no avoiding it.
Update us, please,
Right.
Dr. Stamberg.
And I look forward to a morning where I don't have to have it dominate our discourse for the day. We do have some other topics that we're going to get to, and we're going to kind of start with talk a little bit about COVID, and then we'll kind of return to a little bit later in the show as well. But we're at the midst of a really, really large surge, and perhaps one of the, it might be the worst yet, unfortunately.
Dr. Stamberg?
Yes.
Is there what truths are there in the fact that the new variant, Omicron,
Right.
is somewhat way more contagious, like 100 times more contagious, but less severe? What truths are there in that?
Right. That does seem to be the case, which is kind of a mixed report, right? I mean, it's much more contagious, but for the great majority of people, tends to be less severe. That being said, it's a big country, it's a big planet. There's still going to be people within that population that are going to have bad cases from the Omicron variant. We've been giving Greek letters to different strains of the COVID-19 virus since it began, and we're up to the 16th letter of the Greek alphabet, which is Omicron. Now, there
literally were 15 other variants, not the most powerful here maybe in the country, but there were literally 15 variants before Omicron.
We use the word virulent. Virulent is a microbiology word, a medical word to kind of describe how severe an infection can be. A virulent infection. So, for example, the last Greek letter that we talked about, and not even that long ago, was the Delta variant, which was rather aggressive and severe. There's been many other strains since then that weren't as threatening.
I would say because Delta is the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet. So we've gone through 10 since then, and now we're up to Omicron.
Yeah, I don't know my Greek alphabet well enough to know where we go next. I think epsilon is the last letter, no? What's the...
Alpha, Omega.
Oh, Omega is the last letter.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, there you go. My brother, bless him, pledged fraternities. He knows more about the Greek alphabet. That was part of the requirement to pledge these things.
My daughter is very conversant in Greek. She went to St. John's in Annapolis, and that is one of the requirements.
Oh, interesting.
Entree who?
There, I didn't make a big deal about it, Robin. Dan did.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Baker. Welcome to this morning show. We're kind of talking about the fact that we have to talk about COVID.
I heard.
Right. And all right, so the Omicron variant is let's see. It seems to have arisen in South Africa. So we're trying to learn a little bit about what happened in South Africa. And there are some signs that as abruptly as it showed up, it has begun to recede. That's the good news. Let's hope this is short-lived. We've had Dr. Froud on our show and some other infectious diseases.
Yeah, not to plug the book, but that's what he said was going to happen.
What did he say? Let's review. He said
that the virus doesn't want to kill its host.
Right.
That the variants would be less virulent and more contagious.
There's a degree of anthropomorphism going on. We're going to extrapolate things onto a virus, for example, that we ourselves experience. We have an innate desire to survive, whether literally, so we live long, or our progeny. We have a desire to kind of replicate.
Our children.
Yes, for our children. And a lot of virologists and infectious disease specialists do believe that viruses, even though they don't kind of have a brain per se, kind of have some sort of desire to propagate and live throughout and forever basically.
Right. His reasoning being that if all the hosts die, then the virus dies.
Mm-hmm. So the virus doesn't want to kill it.
Exactly.
Virus in a way wants to.
The first run through was like, well, this didn't work.
So he talked. Yeah, I've been using that a lot. He talked about. I love this. He talked about the Russian flu epidemic of 1888, and how I guess they're able to go back and figure out that this was not a flu virus, but a COVID virus, despite being called the flu virus. And he felt a lot of parallels between that. And
it was like this family tree scenario where they could scientifically go back and trace it back, like kind of how you can trace back to your great-grandmother and your great-great-grandmother. And right.
Interesting science and interesting history, and how this infection kind of did a couple laps before it kind of receded into just being a regular virus. and that's what we're kind of hoping for. But the question is, how long is that going to take? A couple major differences between 1888 and now. One is we got a lot more people on this planet. Number two is we travel a lot more. At the same time, though, we do have some treatments, and we have prevention that we're trying to implement with vaccinations and other precautions. So
and more therapies too.
Therapies, yes.
That being said, we'd prefer not to use the therapies. We'd prefer to use the prevention.
Right. It's one of the themes of this show, I think, from the beginning. Myself being a little bit on the defensive when I hear traditional doctors like myself don't want to really prevent disease because then we'd be out of business. And the answer is, of course, we want to prevent disease.
Exactly. One big question that comes up because it happened within our families is how much of our antibodies are passed on to our progeny, our kids, when they're born?
The answer is a good deal.
A good deal. So that's why the Russian flu hasn't come back.
For
instance, maybe.
I think you're speaking. I thought you were asking a question about with a pregnant woman, for example.
Yes, I am.
She will pass antibodies literally through the placenta that will protect her infant, and then she will also pass antibodies through her breast milk if she breastfeeds to give added protection.
If for instance, she's 3 times vaccinated,
right.
That actually passes through for the child.
And actually, the COVID vaccine is approved and recommended for pregnant women.
Yes, right.
And I had a patient within the past week or two that came up in discussion, and I hope she got the vaccine because I encouraged her to do so. Right. And Dr. Froud talks about this in his book, by the way, kind of like other mechanisms that we kind of maybe develop over time to prevent the infection, kind of genetics and the answer is maybe, but I don't know really how much time. A great example is, and this is a good example of medical history, but sickle cell anemia, which is a dreaded disease, at the same time is kind of protected against malaria. Malaria is a parasitic illness transmitted by mosquitoes, common in temperate parts of the world. And it invades red blood cells. So sickle cell anemia is kind of a condition where there's fewer red blood cells. So if there's fewer red blood cells, you will therefore have less propensity to develop anemia. I'm sorry, to develop malaria. We have a connection?
No, when you hit the table, it
all right, I'll
plays around with the plug there.
I won't be so dynamic in my discussion. Anyway, so that's a good example of something genetic that over time it was protected to some degree. But as you can see, the example also kind of has a downside because there's a dreaded disease called sickle cell anemia, which has its own problem per se. But yes, to some degree, our genetic code will adapt. We will kind of maybe even select out traits that will protect us against many things. That's, by the way, one of the inherent arguments of Darwinian genetics is that we will select out traits that enhance our survivability and deselect traits that will discourage our survivability. You want to share something?
No, just sending a text to our doctor friend. Okay,
good. Yeah, so we're going to have Dr. Tack call in. I'm not sure when, so we'll be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have some other subjects to go on over as well. But basically, we're in the midst of a very big surge. And now it's not just Omicron, and that's part of the, one of the things we need to discuss about. We're still dealing with not enough immunity in our communities, not enough vaccinations. And then we got kind of a perfect storm of 2 holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then just the wintering and people being more indoors. I want to introduce Dr. Marc Tack for this morning. Good morning, Marc.
Marc isn't on yet. This is a listener.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry to be premature with my announcement of Dr. Tack there. Yes, we have a caller already. Good morning.
Oh, hello. My name is Kathy Quick. I am the president of Esopa Seniors, And we're going to cancel our meeting today at 12 o'clock at Town Hall. We're just concerned about the recent COVID surge and people, socializing a lot over the holidays. So I'd appreciate it if you could share that information.
Yes, I'm glad you listened, and I'm glad you're calling in. I think that's the absolutely correct thing to do. Anything that's kind of really not necessary, perhaps we should adapt for the time being. So thanks for calling that in. So that's the Asobis Seniors Meeting. I'm sorry, Kathy?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Is there something else? Well, our cup runneth over. All right, good morning. Who's this?
Good morning.
Oh, this is Dr. Tack. All right, good morning, Dr. Tack. How are you? You sound tired.
I'm awake, so it's a good morning. Okay.
Marc, Tack, and his colleagues have been working so tirelessly at this point on two. They worked amazingly hard to begin with. Like they needed this, and they've been working so tirelessly over the past, wrenching up in the 2-year anniversary here. So how are you doing? Did you have a long weekend?
I left the hospital about 8:30 last night. So, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it comes with round whatever we're up to, 4, 5, 6, I don't even know anymore.
Right. So I'm glad you called in. We wanted to talk about what we're in for over the next who knows how many weeks, right? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long this will play out, but it's certainly, it's a challenge. The math is, if you had Delta and you had 1,000 people sick and 10% got hospitalized, you had 100 people in the hospital. Now you have Omicron. If you have 10,000 people and you only have 1% admitting, you still have 100 people in the hospital. So, it's clearly more contagious. We're seeing record numbers of cases, and hospitalizations are going up.
Yeah.
There's no, it's the reality. It's not. I think the hard part right now, and I'm sure you're experiencing this, is we've gone to this point where it's not just the volume. The nurses and the doctors are feeling it, and in some cases, there's even a certain amount of belligerence or difficulty among some of the patients we're trying to take care of.
That's right.
It doesn't make it easy.
Yeah, that doesn't help, right?
No, it doesn't help.
2 years ago, healthcare workers were being applauded as they walked in and out of their hospitals. People banging pots and pans to celebrate them and cheer them. And now, it's certainly not everywhere, but there are many, many stories throughout our nation of hostility between patients and healthcare providers, which is really very, very sad.
Yeah, listen, I think that the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of the people that I've come across and taken care of have been appreciative of the care we give them, and the how hard everybody is working to try to take care of people. But there are a few that make it very difficult, and it's been hard. I think we all sometimes feel that. You can make 99.9% of your patients happy, and you and I both know that we worry about the 0.1% that you don't.
That's right. Well, one question, and we already touched on it, but I just want to clear the air about it. So the idea that Omicron is more contagious but less serious, and therefore people are going to kind of, maybe say, well, you might as well get it than not get it. How would you counteract that thought process that people might have?
Well, so it's still there. There's still this randomness of, healthy people who don't have lots of risk factors who land up very, very sick. And so, I use an analogy that when you come to a railroad crossing and the rail goes down and the lights are flashing, you have to make a decision. You're going to go around and try to beat the train, or you're going to stop, wait, and keep yourself safe. And, I think that, you may feel that the odds are you're going to get over that track, safely, but you may not.
Right.
And, we've seen a lot of people, I mean, I think one of the things that is very clear is that this is being fueled by the unvaccinated population, and this is not a political statement. It's not a, it's facts. Facts are what they are. There's many things you can make up, but you can't make up the truth. And while we do certainly see some patients have what we call breakthrough cases, people are vaccinated, getting sick, and even some of them landing up in the hospital, the vast majority of the people that we're seeing and the ones that are the sickest are the unvaccinated. And, that's what's happening. So I think if you triple boot, actually if you're boosted, your chances of really bad things happening with Omicron are lower. They're not zero by any means. But, when those railroad crossings come, I stop. I wait. I don't say, "Oh, let me see what happens."
That's right. It's a good analogy. And, recently I had a discussion with a patient. Unfortunately, I have these discussions all day long trying to encourage a person to be vaccinated. And he said, well, it got all political. And I said, it's not political. I'm your doctor, you're my patient, and I'm telling you to get vaccinated. There's nothing political about that statement. My job is to protect you from getting sick, and that's what I want to do. So I can't, it's so sad that has become part of the discussion.
Yeah, it's frustrating. You just when you see what happens to people, and as you and I've talked about before, this is my round two in my career. I mean, I lived through the AIDS epidemic, having trained in St. Vincent's in the Village in the height of the epidemic.
Right.
We didn't have treatments, and I watched a lot of young people die, and what they would have given to take pills that could keep them alive. And the first effective regimens, I remember the first protease inhibitor for HIV, Sequinavir, was 18 pills a day for one drug. And you know what? They were so happy to have it because it kept them alive. And now we have this, vaccine, and people don't want it. And I saw the same thing happen. People say, I ain't taking those pills. The government's, it's a conspiracy. They're going to kill gay men. They're going to kill black people. They're killing drug addicts. I'll take my chances. Well, those people all died. Okay? There were no survivors with that. And we're 25, 30 years later, we're playing the same song.
Yep.
And with the same results.
And perhaps there's always been some degree of fear, and fear is kind of led to, caused by some ignorance about the subject. And ignorance is not always an insult. If people don't know something, it's not necessarily their fault. But when people choose not to know, that's willful ignorance, and that is hard to excuse.
I think the problem is I hear lots of reasons why people don't take vaccines. Fear tends not to be one of them. Okay. I mean, there's a few people, there's a percentage of people say, I'm afraid what's in it. And my answer is, okay, what's in the special sauce with a Big Mac? What's in there? Because I don't know what's in that. What's in a hamburger roll? What's the special ingredients in Coca-Cola? I get it and I don't, because I just think that you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. And people are paying with their life. Particularly frustrating is people who are being told bad information, and when they face the consequences of it, it's too late.
That is true. By the way, Robin, have you said good morning to Dr. Tack?
Good morning, Dr. Tack.
Good morning. I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too. So just to clarify, just working in the general public and people with their questions regarding COVID, the new recommendations, it's become dizzying to catch up with all what new recommendations are. But what can you clarify for us this morning? If you have an exposure to COVID, what is your recommendation for quarantine, and where are you on testing as far as how often and when?
Well, listen, I think that it's a loaded question, so let's start with the simple one, because I'm not particularly a fan of the new guidelines in terms of quarantining and particularly staying quarantined if you're positive. The guidelines for if people are positive, everybody's talking about, it's only 5 days. Well, it's not quite that simple. The guidelines, if you read them carefully, are it's 5 days. If you test negative for day 5, then you're asymptomatic, and you have to wear a mask every place you go for the next 5 days. Well, people aren't going to do that, and because of that we're going to continue to feed this surge. And I don't actually agree with this. I think that this was a political decision, not a medical decision, and because we have cancellations in airlines, we have businesses that can't stay open. We had the New York subway line shut down for a day last week because they didn't have staff. And I understand the challenge of keeping the country moving, but I don't know that when you're in the middle of an exponential surge, you say, let's lighten the criteria for preventing transmission.
So medically, what do you recommend?
I'm staying for the most part with the 10 days. If you test positive for 10 days. If you're unvaccinated and you're exposed, you should quarantine for the 10 days, at least 5, and be tested. And if you are exposed and vaccinated with this strain, I would probably say you still want to really quarantine yourself if you're not an essential worker. And when I mean essential, I don't mean just, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, a cashier or somebody. I mean, if you're an ICU nurse or a police officer where there's no one else to work for you, I'd be masked. I'd be cautious. I'd be careful. I had an exposure last week. I was in an N95 mask, but we had somebody around me who we found out later that day tested positive. I was around that person, but I was in an N95 mask the whole time, and I still felt at risk. And yesterday, I had a chance to see my son and his wife, who I haven't seen for quite a while. My son is an infectious disease fellow at Georgetown these days, and they were up. And so first thing I did yesterday morning after I woke up was I went over and I got tested. So at least I knew that, an hour before I saw them, I was negative.
I mean, we are having a problem with availability of testing, right? I'm not so sure how to counteract that.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to, there's going to be a lot more testing available. I think there's millions of kits. I know that the Ulster County Health Department was giving away kits at City Hall. They give out, tens of thousands of kits. The county has a large number of kits. There are centers. I mean, we have been, as you know, providing testing for our practice, predominantly for our patients, but when we can, we try to help other people as well. For months and months, years, just a year now. I think that I think you have to really go online and look at where the free test kits are available. The schools apparently are getting tens of thousands of test kits now. I think testing finally is starting to catch up. Although I do understand what you're saying, that the people have hoarded the home test kits. They show up on the shelf at CVS or Walgreens and they're gone really quickly. But they are giving them away, and I think Dutchess County is doing the same. So
people can
go online
reach out to the county and maybe get access to a test.
Yeah, absolutely. Call your provider, call their place, go on the county website. I think testing is certainly more robust now than it was even just a month ago.
Yeah, what happened to me, I was online over at Walgreens not that long ago, and I saw the test there. And I asked them, what's the limit? They said 4 boxes, so that's 8 tests, roughly almost $25 a box. I did need them, and I wound up using them because 2 of my kids tested positive. So I did purchase 2 boxes. I really resisted the temptation, which I guess is a human temptation, to just, stockpile, which was to buy all 4 boxes, right? So we have to try to avoid that type of behavior.
Well, I think the other thing that we haven't heard a lot about in the last week is the Pfizer pills have been shipped to pharmacies. There's limited supply, but it should become more available day by day, week by week. There is it's an emergency authorization, so there are some very strict criteria as to who qualifies to receive the prescriptions. But their preliminary data was 89% protection against progression to hospitalization and death. There was also, I'm sure we all have heard that the Regeneron and Eli Lilly monoclonal antibodies don't work as well against this strain, but the AstraZeneca GlaxoSmithKline one does. I know that both Nuvance and Health Alliance have a very small supply of it, but we are trying to prioritize high-risk patients to try to prevent them from progressing. And actually, what no one's talking about is Evusheld, which is a pre-exposure prophylaxis. And that's two subcutaneous injections of a monoclonal antibody that is designed to protect people who, for legitimate medical reasons, either won't respond or can't get a vaccine. It is not going to be given to people who just say, I don't want a vaccine, I'll take the shot instead. But for people who have diseases where they have what are called B-cell depleting illnesses or take certain medications like rituximab or stem cell or solid organ transplant patients, they can qualify and get these monoclonal antibodies before they even get exposed to COVID in order to prevent, what can be a very serious illness. I did see 2 people yesterday who were on rituximab who were admitted to hospitals with COVID.
So that we should emphasize that the list of people who should not get the vaccine for legitimate medical reasons is really pretty narrow, though, right? You mentioned a few diagnoses.
Right. It's very, very small.
Right.
The entire 7-hospital Westchester healthcare system, I don't have the exact number, but I think of every employee, doctor, nurse, housekeeper in the entire 7-hospital system, I think the number is less than 30. Okay? Who have a legitimate medical reason not to get an immunization.
Could you review? So we have a new pill that was recently approved, emergency authorized, right? Sometimes the semantics I find a little confusing, and I think it adds to confusion. So it was emergency authorization for this medication. Could you just review that medicine and the indications for it?
Well, there are 2. So there's a Merck product, and then there's the Pfizer drug. And the 2 are very, very different drugs. The Merck drug is a antiviral. The Pfizer drug is a protease inhibitor combined with what's called a PK booster. So the Merck drug in trials had a 30% reduction in risk for hospitalization and death in people who were high risk and tested positive and treated within 5 days of developing symptoms. So that's 30% is probably not all that different than the monoclonal antibodies. Maybe it's hard to put exact numbers, but it's pretty relatively close. The challenge with the Merck drug is that it has to be used very cautiously in women of childbearing age and men who are in relationships with women of childbearing age. Certainly having a negative pregnancy test and using some type of contraception is recommended because it's not that it could cause birth defects. We know that it can and in some cases will. The Pfizer drug is a protease inhibitor. It's modeled after medication. The technology is what we've been using in HIV since 1996. So that's 25 years. And that drug had an 89% protection rate against hospitalization and progression to death in ICU care in, again, patients who tested positive who were considered at high risk, and I'll go over that in 1 second.
Sure.
And when it was started within, the first 3 to 5 days of symptoms or testing. So the high risks are A, unvaccinated, B, people over the age of 65, 3, people whose BMI is elevated, and we can debate what's appropriate for BMI, but I think their criteria was over 25, which is probably 90% of the country. Diabetics, people with COPD, lung disease, asthma, heart disease, people who are HIV positive, people who are immunosuppressed with long-term steroids or immunosuppressed for other reasons. And that's an important concept because people tell me, well, I'm tired, my immune system. Now, that's not immunosuppressed. Immunosuppressed is, legitimate defects or problems with your immune system as measured by, medical tests or by medications that are specifically suppressing your immune system.
Okay, so you did say, so people have to meet maybe just one of those criteria. They don't have to meet, or they have to meet more than one of them.
No. If they meet any of those criteria,
okay,
they have to test positive,
okay,
within 3 to 5 days, and they have to be at high risk to progress.
And that includes unvaccinated individuals. That's enough to gain approval for the medication.
It's one of the controversies that, and this is an emotional one, is some centers, especially with monoclonal antibodies, with the very limited supply of the new effective one, have said, well, we're going to target unvaccinated people who are positive as a first criteria. And I say on an emotional level, and this is, I will clarify it, I would have a very hard time telling a 64-year-old diabetic with COPD who did everything right and has, been vaccinated, that he can't have it, but some obese, chain-smoking 35-year-old unvaccinated can have it.
Right.
And I know that's, I may get some heat for that, but it's...
Well, we're allowed our feelings. I mean, by the way, we might think those thoughts, but it doesn't come into practice. No one is going to deny any care.
That is correct. We treat everybody the same. I don't look. One of the things that I tell myself every day is that people made a decision to get a vaccine, not to get a vaccine, or get a vaccine doesn't mean that they don't get treated exactly the same. You cannot. It's not my place to play God.
Right.
It's not my place to judge people. It's not my place to inflict my beliefs upon them. So no, that is clear. We do not.
Right.
We cannot do that. It's wrong.
Right. To me, it's analogous. Like if someone continues to smoke, for 2 packs a day, and then they get lung cancer, we're not going to not treat them and say, boy, you should have quit smoking when we told you to quit smoking. So it's kind of like that a little bit.
But it is. You do feel frustration for those people, though, don't you? I had a patient who was mine for many years who smoked since he was a young man, and he always wanted to quit, but he would tell me, I'm going to try, and I'd see him outside the window of my office lighting a cigarette on the way out of the office. And, I tried every way to reach out to him to get him to stop, and ultimately he got lung cancer, and he looked at me and said, how'd that happen? I'm like, really? Because we've talked about this 50 times.
Yep.
But we still took care of him. We treated him with respect and held his hand and got him to the appropriate doctors and gave him the best treatments we could. I mean, that's what we do.
So, Doc, before, I know that you're super busy and that you have a busy day ahead of you, but before we let you go, what about some of these alternative treatments that people are talking about and like buzzing around, like the ivermectin and things that are not clinically proven? What do you have to say about those?
That's a disaster waiting to happen, and we have seen so many sad stories about people who are buying into these. I mean, this is if we all have one common enemy in this pandemic, it's the misinformation that's spread on media, whether it's social media or mainstream media. And ivermectin does not work. I mean, the studies that have been done just don't show benefit in doses that the humans can take. This came out of a study where, if you put enough ivermectin in a test tube with a COVID virus, you might be able to slow down, replication of the virus. But to achieve that level, you'd have to eat the entire supply of tractor supplies, ivermectin, and you would die from the toxic levels of the medication. At the doses that people can safely take, it doesn't work. And, unfortunately, we just saw a patient who, contacted a, quote, complementary provider who, and I have nothing against complementary medicine. It's fine when taking complementary medicine is fine with HIV if you take your HIV med. Otherwise, you're going to die from AIDS. Okay?
Right.
But we've had a patient who, got COVID, had multiple risk factors for progression of disease, was in a high-risk category, contacted their complementary provider, took vitamin C, vitamin D, hydroxychloroquine, and ivermectin, and when they showed up in the emergency room, their oxygen level was 55%. They were admitted right to the intensive care unit on what we call high-flow oxygen. They were on a ventilator in less than 24 hours and dead in 48. And, the family's like, how did that happen? Why did I thought ivermectin would help them. It doesn't work. This is the most frustrating part. If ivermectin worked, I would be standing on the street corner handing it out to people. They'd be handing it out at City Hall. They'd be handing it out at the county. This conspiracy concept that we would withhold an effective, cheap drug is absurd. It's absurd. Okay? We struggle every day to try to keep people alive. Why would we ever hold back a treatment that could save someone's life?
Good point.
I mean, really, you have to buy this. You have to think that 99% of the physicians in America got on a Zoom call that no one knows about, and we all said, you know what? We're just not going to give them this medicine. It works. It'll save everybody's life. But screw it. Let's let 800,000 people die.
Yeah.
Really? 'Cause
doesn't make sense, does it?
We haven't spent our entire lives trying to keep people healthy and alive. I mean, you get up every day, and that's your goal. How do you help people? How do you keep them healthy? How do you keep them out of harm's way? And we're going to hold back on treatments that would work.
Right. It's just no common sense there. So Eric had a conversation, or Dr. Stamberg had a conversation with a patient this past week where he's like, so you're my patient and I prescribe this high blood pressure medicine for you because I prefer that you not have a heart attack or a stroke, and you take this medication. The patient said, yes, I do. But you are going to choose to not get vaccinated, even though this is my recommendation for you to keep you healthy. And, patient.
Well, she said, I don't know what's in it. I said, well, you don't know what's in any of the meds I'm giving you. She says, well, I trust you. I said, well, good. Thanks for trusting me. And I'm telling you to get the shot. So it was just, it's just so hard to counteract this kind of epidemic of misinformation. And all right. So we have to go, though. But I really, go ahead, Marc.
No, I think we all feel the same thing, which is
exhaustion.
At this, there was a time we couldn't. We were desperate to try to help people, and now help is standing in front of them.
Right.
Now, at some level, you have to help yourself.
Yeah. I like the work that Dr. Tack does, and his colleague Dr. Janowski, and there's a nurse practitioner working them now. Rena, I pronounce her?
Rena Paterno, and Dr. Froud is back today.
Okay.
He'll be rounding in Kingston Hospital, and our newest doctor, Michael Skelly, our new ID physician, who's at Kingston today.
Okay. Look forward to meeting him.
Working hard.
And then, you don't have to reveal details, but I understand your infectious disease family might grow a little bit more as we get into the spring with a new colleague as well, right?
That is correct. We have a new doctor who should be joining us in, hopefully, I think, May. And, I'm proud. I'm actively recruiting a Kingston High School graduate. Someday you might say, hey, go see Dr. Tack, and he'll look a lot younger than me.
Multiple Dr. Tacks.
18 months from today, from January 1st, my son will finish his infectious disease training, and I'm certainly going to try everything I can do to convince him to come back to the Hudson Valley.
Sure, that would be great. And all right, but you guys are amazing at what you do, so thank you very much.
Listen, you stay safe, please.
Okay,
right?
will do.
Take care.
All right, thanks, Marc. Bye-bye. All right, that's Dr. Tack. We are going to go to a break.
Okay, yes, we're having our 7:30 break at 7:45 to give Dr. Marc Tack the information to us that we need, and we thank him very, very, very much. Dr. Marc Tack, infectious disease, and all the Omicron issues. And thank you, Dr. Eric Stamberg and Robin Baker. You are listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. It's Monday, January 3rd, and 25 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. We'll be right back after these messages.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? Shifting to a system based on primary care can help fix the problem. Patients with a primary care doctor live longer, healthier lives and are less likely to suffer from cancer, heart disease, or stroke. Primary care that is comprehensive and coordinated also saves money. Patients who have a primary care doctor spend 30% less on health care than patients who don't. States with a high number of primary care doctors have lower health care costs and higher quality care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Do you know who that is? Who's that? It could be a clever thief impersonating Central Hudson, asking for your personal or account information or an immediate bill payment. Beware of scam artists that can target you by telephone, email, or in person. Don't provide personal information to callers or open email attachments. Ask to see ID. If you're ever uncertain about an inquiry, contact us. Don't fall victim to a sinister scheme.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Central Hudson. Our call-in number is 331-9255, and thank you for listening to us today. And we're going to get back to the on-air studio for about 15 minutes and then do our 8 o'clock break.
All right. Thank you to Dr. Tack for calling in. Gosh, they're working hard. I guess we're all working hard, to be honest with you.
So if the listeners are curious, what does that mean that you're an infectious disease doctor? Why does that make him an authority in this area?
Well, it's in a way, it's in the title, by the way. It's interesting how like that type of doctor hasn't had like a real title, you have a rheumatologist, a cardiologist. There's, I don't know. It's never an infectiologist or whatever. It's an infectious disease specialist.
Yes.
But they specialize in infections. And infections can be bacterial, can be viral, can be fungal, can be parasitic. There's a few other categories of types of infections. So most of the time we're talking about bacterial and viral infections.
So these doctors will be called in as a specialist, like if a person's admitted to the hospital with what kind of issues?
Right. Any serious infection, like something called sepsis. Sepsis is kind of a syndrome of overwhelming infection in the body, but sepsis can be caused by many different things. Common causes of sepsis would be pneumonia, a urinary tract infection, something intra-abdominal, a ruptured colon, for example. So they're frequently used for serious infections. We in another era, we talked a lot about antibiotics. And over-prescribing of antibiotics kind of leading to resistance. So they have helped us with treating resistant infections and also kind of judicious use of antibiotics. There's some amazing antibiotics out there, but in a way, when I work in the hospital, there's a little oversight about what I can order. I'm not a specialist, and then by the way, I welcome that oversight, because I want to use this product responsibly.
Right. I have a good friend who has severe allergies to antibiotics, and of course, if you're allergic to common antibiotics, you can be treated like a regular person would be if you just get a common illness, like something that you would just give somebody like just a regular antibiotic for. They can't take them because it makes them sick. So they actually have these like things where they can desensitize you. Yes. and
right. And by the way, they've also recently, Dr. Tack and colleagues, kind of analyzing allergies. People, for example, say they're allergic to penicillin. When you ask, well, what happened? Usually, there's not much of a story. Well, I was given to me when I was a kid, and something happened, and the doctor. It's always very dramatic. The doctor told my mother to never let anyone ever give that antibiotic to me again. So they actually kind of analyze that, and there's certain testing that can be done to confirm a penicillin allergy. Because if you're not allergic and it's the right treatment for you, you should receive it.
Because the truth is, this is a good medicine, right?
It is a good medicine. So they're also used to sometimes clarify allergies. What else would they? HIV is a viral condition. Infectious disease doctors are specialists in treating HIV. Hepatitis C is another common viral illness that sometimes a gastroenterologist might treat hepatitis C infection, or because it also is part of the GI system, the liver, or an infectious disease doctor. So you do see some crossover in who handles certain problems sometimes, in medicine. Lyme disease is, again, I haven't heard much talk about Lyme disease in the era of COVID, but, Lyme disease is a common infection in our area, and I always tell patients the great majority are easily diagnosed and easily treated, but when it's not so easy, that's
when you call in the infectious disease doctor.
And there's a lot of stuff about Lyme disease, people, controversy. So I do sometimes use the infectious disease consultant to resolve the controversy. If I say to a patient, here's your, you need 2 weeks of doxycycline, and that's kind of all you need, and you'll be okay, but they're still not sure, I might obtain a consultation to get it's kind of a second opinion, so to speak, and I'm all right with that. Sometimes the patient says to me, well, what's that doctor going to do? And I'll say, well, they're either going to agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, it's going to be helpful. So that is one reason to refer to an infectious disease specialist, or just a specialist in general.
Two good trained minds in the room instead of one.
Well, it's okay. There is a phrase: a good physician is never threatened by a second opinion. So just keep that in mind. If it ever kind of comes up and someone starts getting a little defensive, maybe a little angry, I don't know that. I shouldn't have used the word good, because there still might be a good physician who gets defensive at the prospect of a second opinion.
Well, it's a little bit of semantics there. I mean,
right. But if someone says, I'm not sure, and I haven't really answered all this patient's questions satisfactorily, or if there's some in my thought process something I'm not really comfortable with or sure of, that's
right.
why
You'll welcome a second opinion.
Right. And second opinion, I guess also we talk about semantics. So in my context as a primary care physician, a second opinion would be a consultation with a specialist. So, I'm not going to refer the patient to another primary care doctor, I guess in the world of specialty medicine, like for, oncology, cancer treatment, for example, a second opinion would maybe be another oncologist, which is kind of common when people have serious problems like cancer. They do seek second opinions. So I worked a couple days in the hospital, Northern Dutchess. The approximate percentage of patients at that hospital with COVID are about 25% now. That's high, and it's gonna get higher. So you talk about maybe 50, 60 patients, 15 or to 20 of which have COVID, or at least under investigation for COVID.
And just to clarify, when you're hospitalized with COVID, you're sick.
Yes.
I mean, you're very sick.
Right. Someone says, well, how bad is it? I'm like, well, it's bad enough to be hospitalized, which is bad. That means, and a little semantics as well. You can have COVID infection, but not necessarily COVID pneumonia. COVID pneumonia is kind of what it sounds like. It's when the virus has invaded your lungs. The cardinal symptom would be difficulty breathing. So, yeah, all those milder cases, maybe more just like viral kind of
flu-like.
What's that?
Flu-like.
Flu-like, but viral. And I'm finding, kind of when I review these cases that I was taking care of this weekend, almost everyone, if not everyone, there's something wrong with their vaccination history for the COVID. So, for example, maybe they never got vaccinated. Well, we talked about that, how frustrating that is for all of us. There's a few examples of people who got one vaccine and never went and got the second one. Maybe they didn't like the side effects, so they never got it. And what's very common, unfortunately, is people have not been appropriately boosted. They got, so the vaccines were introduced about a year ago, first rolled out to senior citizens, for example, and other at-risk population. So they got the first doses. Well, those are the first people then to kind of need the booster. One patient, for example, was a man in his 90s who was vaccinated but not appropriately boosted, exposed by his family during the holidays. He's holding his own. He's not as sick as he could be, but he's sick enough to be admitted. But if he had been boosted, who knows? He probably would not have needed to be admitted. He may have still gotten sick, but he would not have been needed to be admitted. So
can you clarify, what are you saying when you, there's so much confusion about the booster. Do you lose all immunity?
It wanes. Yeah, this is something
because
I don't
you still
really
have immunity.
There's something I don't even understand. For example, we've never developed an HIV vaccine. There's
treatment.
There's treatment. So for some reason, certain infections we could develop vaccines for. Likewise, and other infections we're not successful at developing vaccines for. We have a hepatitis B vaccine, but not a hepatitis C vaccine. I'm sure there's plenty of people working on it. Likewise with bacterial illnesses. And similarly, we have conditions that we have treatments for and not treatments for. How did I get on this subject?
Because I'm asking you to clarify about the booster, because
okay.
Do you lose all immunity? You've been vaccinated. You had your first shot, you had your second shot, you were fully vaccinated, but you have not yet been boosted. Have you lost, or is it possible for you to lose all your immunity?
Right.
Or is it just appropriate to be boosted?
Right.
And by the way, just to clarify, because I thought this was very interesting, the booster is actually like a half dose,
right.
not a full dose of the medication. So it's like a baby shot.
Baby shot.
Yeah. So, shouldn't have fear of it. There should be no, question about getting it. I mean, you can walk into any pharmacy and receive it. And why wouldn't you if your, resistance is just going to be that much stronger to never getting sick? I mean, it's one of those things where everyone's like, okay, so everybody's going to get it now because it's so common. I don't know.
But no, I am concerned that people are going to kind of maybe adopt an attitude, be told that it's not that serious, therefore kind of say, then I might as well get it and get it over with.
But you're here to say, people who are healthy, people who don't have immunocompromised situations going on are getting sick and getting really sick. 50-year-olds passing away.
Right.
I mean, and it just doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
So I'm sorry. So just to recap, to clarify the booster.
We're into our break. Then we'll visit this afterwards. But every infection is different. Every bacteria is different. Every virus is different. And the complicated interaction between our immune system and the infection. So some infections you kind of get once and only once. Classically, you're supposed to get mononucleosis once and only once.
Chickenpox.
Chickenpox kind of lives in you, which is one of the reasons why you only get it once, because your body's always kind of keeping something in check, and then it might manifest as shingles, which is an interesting thing to review. Things like measles, where you got once and only once. So
yeah, but the idea is to not get measles.
Right. Well, we could revisit that because a lot of the discussion over vaccines is analogous to parts of our history, and the measles vaccine is a good example. of something that was. We'll revisit that after our break. How do I do this? How do I get better at talking up until the break?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to our break, and we'll revisit some subjects after the break.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Stamberg, Robin Baker, and a major, major thanks to Dr. Marc Tack, Infectious Disease, and with all the Omicron issues that were discussed. And you're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Central Hudson. It's Monday, January 3rd, 25 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is what carbon monoxide sounds like. Nothing. You can't see it or smell it either. That's why it's so dangerous. But you can protect yourself. Use carbon monoxide detectors. Have your home's heating system regularly inspected by a trained technician. Keep chimneys and flues free of debris. Never use a generator or grill or idle a vehicle in an enclosed area. And review life-saving carbon monoxide safety information at centralhudson.com.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name's Maggie. I'm from Copiague, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And a little bit of weather and forecast for the next 3 days. Generally cloudy today with a high only up to 27. Tonight, we're going to go down to about 15 degrees, and it's going to be a little cloudy, mostly clear tonight. Tuesday, sunny skies. We wake up to sunny skies with a high of 36. And Tuesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 25. And Wednesday, overcast with a slight chance of a rain shower. Our high goes up to 43 on Wednesday. And Wednesday night, a few clouds, low around 30 degrees. And that's what we've got so far for these first 3 days of January here, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Herzog's. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building, maintenance, and painting needs. Discover the difference of buying local. And visit herzogs.com for their ongoing sales. You're listening to WGHQ AM 920 and 92.5 FM, the home of Kingston Community Radio. My name is Dan Gatis, and it is 25 degrees on this Monday, January 3rd. Let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Eric Stamberg and Robin Baker.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the second half of this morning's show. We have birthdays, Robin.
Hooray.
Yes,
Happy New Year, everyone.
The first birthdays of the new year.
2022.
January 3rd, that would be a good day to have a birthday.
1-3-1-3-2-0-2-2.
It's my dad. It's my dad's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday,
my dad.
Robin's dad.
Oh, Robin's dad, Mr. Custer.
Mm-hmm.
That's Robin's maiden name, Custer.
With a K. Not like the general.
Custer.
The general had a
no
C.
No general jokes.
Okay.
No please Mr. Custer quotes. Remember that song? I'm sure you heard that growing up.
Advance, never retreat. Yeah.
All right, we have two birthdays for this morning, and I shall. What should we do? It's been so long since we've done birthdays.
Robin can do the bell.
Okay. Oh, Dan wants you to.
That's
do
very exciting. Did you tell Dan what you got for Hanukkah?
I did get a little mooer.
Mooer, what's that?
Yeah, but I left the mooer.
Oh, a mooer, like
yes,
a little toy that says moo.
Like this.
Yes.
It is.
But it is home.
Okay, you're going to bring it in?
Yes, I want to move with it with you.
I hope it's an octave lower than these ones.
I want to moo with you.
I want to moo with you. We can moo together.
A mooer.
Okay, so we have 2 birthdays for today.
Who else was born on January 3rd?
Anyone else? I don't know.
You have a list.
Oh, okay. But we just want to say what we're competing for, what the prize is today.
Oh.
Today's winner will win a famous cow pie brought to you or sponsored by Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, Kingston, New York, and Kingston Community Radio. So there are 2 people with birthdays today. Here is one. Robin shall announce it.
All right. Happy birthday, January 3rd, to Carol Curran. Carol, your friends at the Wellness and Healthy Lifestyle Club are wishing you a very, very happy birthday today.
Okay. And I want to wish a happy birthday to Matthew Corbin. With love, Mom and Dad, April, Jordan, and Tyler. And today's winner is, go ahead, Robin. Well, you want to...
I'll ring the bell. You announce it.
Today's winner of the Boyce Dairy Milk House famous cow pie, January 3rd, 2022, is Matthew Corbin. Wow.
Happy birthday.
It's hard to contain the excitement.
It's very exciting.
I know. It's just that this starts the week and it's downhill from here.
So you just go by Boyce's Dairy Milk House and
Yes.
you claim your prize.
Matthew Corbin, you have won the famous cow pie.
Delicious.
Boyce Dairy Milk House. So we should, what?
Just recap quickly.
Well, so I was telling people, listeners, that a lot of people are under boosted, and that's one message I wanted to get out for today is if you have not been boosted, you should. All right, that's the best thing you could do to protect yourself against not so much the Omicron infection, but a serious case of the Omicron infection. And when I look at the hospitalized patients, there's always something wrong with the vaccination history. A lot of people just never got boosted. So, when you ask, yes, you got vaccinated. When did you get vaccinated? They said, I got vaccinated February of 2021. That's almost a year ago. Should have been boosted. All right. So if you have not been boosted, if you know anyone who's not been boosted, tell them to get boosted. Robin, you were boosted recently over at Nico's Dedrick's, right?
Yeah, we went to Nico's.
And how was your experience scheduling that appointment and having it done?
Easy peasy. No problem.
Just call.
And I know that you can just you can walk in at pharmacies. I know Walgreens and other pharmacies are just having walk-ins. Easier though if you I know Best Buy has the booster. And it's a half dose and no side effects. I didn't really experience any side effects at all.
This is I didn't either, by the way, not with the booster. This is a fluid situation. It is possible we're going to have to get another booster in 6 months. Remember, if we stick to the John Froude model of the Russian flu epidemic of 1898, this thing might be with us a little bit longer. The one that he talked about was 3 to 5 years, I think. So we're 2 years in. So it is possible we're going to be told and recommended in 6 months to get a booster. So please, if you have not been boosted, you really should. And if you know anyone who has not been boosted, you should encourage them to do so. That's the best thing that you could do to protect yourself and
your community.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about COVID as a pediatric infection these days, which is also can kind of be a little confusing because people get that message. Well, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. But again, as Dr. Tack pointed out, if enough people get it, even if it's not that serious, you're still going to have just as many bad cases. It's kind of a balance. So it is recommended that children 5 and older get vaccinated. So you should also encourage that.
Right, and if those all eligible get vaccinated, then those who cannot get vaccinated will be protected. Like the under 5-year-olds who are not eligible for a vaccine yet will be protected because you're vaccinated. So it's a hard concept to understand, but it's not also a hard concept to understand.
Yeah. All right. Another thing to review was, and we talked about it, the pills that are now approved and becoming more available for COVID infection, but you have to meet criteria. And it's complicated. I myself, one of the things I have to do today, maybe tomorrow, is review the criteria, make sure I understand it, and give people the appropriate recommendation. It's part of my job is to stay abreast of any changes or developments.
But the treatment is not instead of a vaccine.
No, absolutely not. It's just, it could not be a more simpler statement. We rather prevent it from ever happening than deal with it once it happens.
Correct.
We were talking about the measles as a good example. So measles was before you and I were born. We're children of the mid-'60s here. Was a very common infection, almost on the level of chickenpox. Almost everybody got measles growing up, and most people, kind of wasn't. It was an illness. They got better, and getting measles did convey lifelong immunity. Right. So to the point now, when you look at immunization guidelines for measles, if you're born before usually 1957, it's usually not required that you get vaccinated because the assumption is that you probably had it, and you therefore don't need it.
Right. And most people didn't pass away from it, but some did.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of people that got it, and within that, there were bad cases. People that developed encephalitis
and succumbed.
And then also other lifelong complications like blindness, for example. So if you turn back the clock and you want to do that, get this attitude that measles was no big deal, the answer is it was a big deal. So it
just isn't anymore.
Right. It still shows up, right? Remember, before pre-COVID days, we had some discussions about measles. Certain pockets of.
Isn't there an outbreak in New Paltz, the college?
It's interesting. I seem to remember SUNY New Paltz having a little bit of problem with mumps not that long ago. But yeah, measles is very contagious. So if the immunity dips below a certain level, and it's a high level, like 90%, I wish Dr. Tack would, he probably knows these numbers more exactly. You run the risk of measles showing up in a community. So particularly when you have certain pockets of communities that have lower vaccination rates, it's a risk. Measles, it's analogous to COVID to some extent, in the sense that it's very common and a lot of people are going to get it, and still some people get seriously ill from it. However, the measles, you get it only once in your life. So if you were to get measles, it would convey some sort of lifelong memory of your immune system to prevent it from happening again. We don't. You were asking if, why does that happen to some things and not other things? The answer is we don't really know. It's very complicated. It has to do with the pathogen itself, the virus or the bacteria, and the immune system. So that's why.
Gotcha.
All right. So understand that there's potential treatment. I am concerned that we're going to have a hard time keeping up with demand for testing over this coming week. I do think a reasonable place to start is with your healthcare provider, but it's getting difficult to obtain testing for people without symptoms. That's
right, which is difficult for people because it's being required for all kinds of things, and certainly for any kind of travel at all. And travel is not a necessity. Like, you're choosing to travel, so you have no symptoms, but you want to go somewhere and you need a test. But kind of they're pulling back on those availability of that, and the rapid tests are not accepted. So.
Yes. Now, look, I accept the rapid test. Rapid test is kind of like a home pregnancy test. If it's positive, it's positive. So a test will have a control. A control is a way to determine that the test was done right. So if that control line shows up, the test was done right. So when you look at a home test, whether it's a pregnancy test or a home COVID test, you're looking for two lines. Usually the control line is blue and the test line is red. So if your test shows two lines, it's a positive test. If you see a blue line and no red line, it's a negative test. If you see no blue line, something did go wrong with how you did the test or the batch of the test or whatever. So that's come up a little bit where people have tested positive for home, but immediately, maybe we did the test wrong. You wouldn't do the test wrong and get a positive result. You would do the test wrong and maybe get a negative result. So if your test at home is positive, it's positive. And I will, as a physician, accept someone's report of a positive test, right? Because
and if you're testing positive, even if you're asymptomatic, you should quarantine.
Yes, and you heard Dr. Tack kind of disagree with what came out very abruptly about a week ago. Kind of this recommendation from the CDC to pull back on quarantine intervals.
Days.
Yeah. And he's cautious. He's nervous about it.
Right, and I think he's not wrong in saying it's a political decision to keep, people from staying home longer. Like, they need people in the workforce, and there's just, my daughter is a teacher upstate, and they had to close their schools because they didn't have enough bus drivers. I mean, there wasn't anybody to bring the kids to school. So they ended up being, virtual for a whole week. Because of that. So, yes, it is affecting the workforce. And if the recommendation is less time in quarantine, I guess that gets people back to work sooner. But if it gets sick people back to work, then it doesn't really help anybody, does it?
Right. No, yeah. And it has affected my family over the past week because 2 of my 3 children tested positive. And, they're going to adhere to the 5-day quarantine. Because not only did it say 5 days if you don't have symptoms. It also said 5 days and if you have symptoms, but if you're symptom-free for 24 hours.
Were they fully vaccinated and boosted?
Oh, yeah.
My kids were vaccinated and boosted, and they will tell you that they both. I spoke to both of them yesterday that they feel that the booster probably minimized the
right,
symptoms.
And that was what we were calling now a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Right, and so the Omicron, it's contagious. So the stats are that you're about 75% affected if you're vaccinated and boosted. And that's one stat that I read. But also just the fact that the vaccine will really mitigate your Omicron symptoms rather than not necessarily prevent it altogether.
And the booster is quite effective over the Omicron. Am I correct?
It's effective at preventing a serious case.
Seriousness. And
right.
how long shall we expect the booster to be able to live with us, before we have to get another one? What do you think?
I think
do you have
I wouldn't be surprised if 6 months from now it's the recommendation. Already there's other parts of the world that are studying a 4th dose. Israel is one country.
Okay.
So I think it's just a matter of time, whether or not it's a 6-month interval or a 9-month interval. Who knows?
Right. Okay.
I always think in 3s. I like 6 and 9. It's funny. Some doctors think in 4s, 4 and 8.
Because with a 30-day calendar.
Right. I always say come back in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I usually say. But anyway, I think we are going to at some point have to get another booster.
Our boosters are going to dwindle a little, and then we're going to need something about 6 months to 9 months.
And this other issue is does the vaccine have to be kind of modified? For example, kind of almost like the flu shot. Does it have to be adapted for variations? That's one of the reasons we have to get an annual flu shot. I remember the H1N1. Remember that? That was 2009 or whatever. That was a strain of the flu that showed up. And it was not planned for the regular flu shot, and it did cause about 50,000 fatalities, I think, in our country. It pales to the, 830,000 that we're seeing now, from COVID. And what happened that year was that the CDC and in conjunction with private companies had to kind of issue a urgent other type of vaccine. So people then had to get the H1N1 vaccine, even though they already had the flu shot. And then by next year, though, it's kind of incorporated into the flu shot. So there's a lot of stuff going on. What do you think? I did wanted to go over some other topics.
Yeah, let's talk about some other things going on.
I wanted to talk about cannabis.
Cannabis?
Yes. Because this is, marijuana.
Very popular. It's got a lot of different words. We call it all kinds of things.
It is it legal now? I've lost track. It's been moving so fast. I guess it is kind of legal now, right?
Yeah, you can grow it. Like you can have up to, I think it's 4 or 5 plants, right, in your own.
I don't know.
I think, I think that's correct. I mean, callers can call in and correct us, but I think that's correct.
And, obviously it's a medical show, so I wanted to focus on the medical aspect of cannabis and
medical marijuana. You can't prescribe that unless you have a specific license to do so.
Right. You have to get training. And I never obtained the training for a couple basic reasons. One was I felt it was kind of not being done right. I mean, I practice medicine to a very high standard. I try to prescribe medications that are studied and proven or felt, or at least there's a very strong consensus that things are effective. The medical marijuana was kind of by-skirted all of that. What else? I also thought it was going to be a flash in the pan, medical marijuana. The trend was going to be towards some sort of legalization, therefore making medical use kind of almost obsolete. So am I going to prescribe a shot of whiskey, or someone going to just go out and get some whiskey? Right? Okay. All right, so cannabis. So these are some basic stats. Prevalence. So one study said 15% of adults in 2017 used cannabis at some point. That is, I guess it's 5-year-old data now, so who says? About almost 20% of users will develop what's called cannabis use disorder, which is kind of an addiction. And this is something that's always been debated. Is it addicting? Is it not addicting? And how do we define addiction? It's, as I always say, not that easy to define. It's complicated. But addiction usually means that a good portion of your day, of your life, is spent kind of either consuming something regularly or at least thinking about consuming it regularly. And addiction is also defined as having a withdrawal syndrome of some sort. Even caffeine, has a withdrawal syndrome. People who drink coffee regularly and then try to go 2 to 3 days without it will feel something, And so the cannabis use disorder, about 20%, but it's actually especially common in adolescents within their first 2 years of use. One point to note is that the potency of the marijuana plant has increased dramatically. So this is not your father's marijuana. This is not even your grandfather's marijuana.
It's not the old Mexican.
So THC, which is pretty much the active ingredient in marijuana, was about 1.5% in the 70s. Now, and by 2008, it had been modified and selectively bred to be 8.9%, and in 2018, at 21%. So marijuana now is at least 20 times potent as it was in the 70s. There's a lot going on in this plant. A lot of chemicals, but the two that are talked about are tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC, and also cannabidiol, which is called CBD, right? CBD is also available. And so the THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol, is the psychoactive part of the plant that kind of makes you high, so to speak, euphoria, whereas the CBD has other effects. And there's probably a little discussion and debate about what exactly those effects are, but it doesn't necessarily make you high, so to speak. Although, look, a lot of people take CBD and they feel it does something. Right, Robin?
Yeah.
Let's see. The marijuana can be smoked, vaped, and eaten, commonly referred to as edibles. By the way, it's not a new concept. In 1985, there was a product called Marinol, which was approved, as its name implies, from the marijuana plant. And this was a product that was approved in 1985 to help with nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy. It's also commonly used to help someone with their appetite. So the idea of medical marijuana is really not a new concept. That's kind of one component of misconception. CBD was approved in 2018 by the FDA for rare forms of epilepsy. So that was something that also made me a little hesitancy, kind of like this exaggeration of medical indications to kind of justify, approving it. It is. There are some forms of epilepsy that it helps with, but they're unusual and rather rare. The onset from inhalation is rather quick, 5 to 10 minutes, can last 2 to 4 hours. If you consume it, the onset is 1 to 3 hours and can last 6 to 8 hours. There's this medication, and I guess we'll call it a medication, does interact with other medication and can enhance the effect of other psychoactive medications such as alcohol and benzodiazepines like Valium, Xanax, Ativan. Acute cannabis intoxication is characterized by hunger, rapid heart rate, increased blood pressure. It can cause anxiety, paranoia, psychosis. You remember Dan, you probably remember the Easy Rider movie from 1969?
Easy Rider, or even better yet, Up in Smoke.
They were funny.
They were so funny.
But in Easy Rider, the character played by Dennis Hopper, was very paranoid.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah. Fabulous movie, unbelievable movie.
Something that we've seen a lot in the hospital setting is something called Cannabis Hyperemesis syndrome. What do you think that is, Robin?
I'm not sure.
Well, it means vomiting, excessive vomiting caused by marijuana use. It's interesting because on some level, marijuana might actually help relieve nausea and vomiting, but excessive use can lead to this cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. We've had to admit patients to the hospital for this. It's more common in men than women. And an interesting side effect, an interesting tidbit about this condition is that symptoms are relieved with a hot shower. Anyway, 50% of regular users of marijuana will have a withdrawal syndrome, as I already talked about, and that's usually characterized. Generally, withdrawal syndromes are the opposite of what the medication is doing to begin with. So if the medication is giving some degree of euphoria, maybe a sense of relaxation, the withdrawal syndrome will be characterized by dysphoria and maybe anxiety. So what are the health risks of cannabis use? There's concerns about memory impairment, impairs judgment, coordination, increases your risk of a motor vehicle accident by 3 to 7 times. I mean, it's really not a major, it's not such a leap of faith to jump to that conclusion that being intoxicated with marijuana will increase your risk of a motor vehicle accident. And then that is another concern with, from a public safety point of view. How do you regulate impaired driving due to marijuana? Do we have rapid testing like we do with alcohol? I don't know. Do you know?
No, I've been on the shows with the police on Wednesday, and right now that's quite up in the air. Really is.
There's no good technology that we have to detect if a driver is intoxicated with marijuana.
So far from the law enforcement people, I've heard very, very little. I mean, that's a concern for them.
Yep.
It's a big concern right now, and they're obviously looking into it.
Marijuana is also a neurotoxin, which is one of the reasons why it's a concern with developing brains like adolescents. It has been linked to lower IQ and apathy, right?
I just don't care about it.
Right. Long-term users can have increased anxiety, psychosis. Adolescents have shown increased suicidality. It has been linked to male infertility. There is kind of almost a hormonal role that can, regular marijuana consumers can develop like breast tissue, for example. It interferes with testosterone. So be careful with marijuana use, particularly in people less than 21. Also in older people, 65 and older, because it has more side effects like any other medication. It also is a concern with pregnancy and breastfeeding. So what about medical use of it? This is sort of why we built up.
Sounds like a little too much can go a long way with side effects and adverse reactions.
Right, and
are we saying lightly and in moderation? There are some benefits to it.
If there's someone who chooses on his or her Saturday night to be in his living room and consume marijuana recreationally, I guess that's to me not much different than having a couple drinks, right? But if it's someone doing this regularly, someone who's then doing risky behavior like driving with it or going to work with it or something like that, then I would be more concerned. And what about medical use? So first of all, anecdotal use. We'll revisit this after the break. Because if someone has like HIV, for example, or cancer, and they feel that smoking marijuana helps relieve their symptoms, I'm not going to stand in the way of that.
Right. You're fine with that.
Right. So one of the first uses of medical marijuana, as we already discussed, was to relieve nausea and vomiting, for example, someone with chemotherapy. And we'll revisit this after the break. I got to get this timing down better.
Yeah, it's good, actually.
We're in perfect shape right here. It's exactly 8:30 a.m., and it's now at the bottom of the hour. You're with us on Kingston Community Radio, KCR, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ. 25 degrees on this Monday, January 3rd. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Herzog's. Because the colors and quality of paint you choose matters, Herzog's Paint and Design Center, located in the Kingston Plaza, is there for you, offering the largest selection of Benjamin Moore paints and the area's most complete line of painting supplies. Herzog's Paint and Design Center also provides color samples from Benjamin Moore paints, including the eco-friendly Aura line. Color decorating consultants and expert interior designers are there for you, ready to assist you in choosing the right colors and more for your home. Visit Herzog's in the Kingston Plaza. We'll be right back after these messages.
What is us?
Us is a foundation.
Us is the future.
Us is a bond.
But right now, that bond is fraying, and we need a place that could make it whole.
From diabetes prevention to safety around water.
The why fills the gaps
and bridges our divides.
But they can't do it without us.
Donate today.
Because where there's a why, there's an us.
Read by members of the Y.
The Y, for a better us.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Scott Harrington from Hurley, and I support Kingston Community Radio because the people need a place to have their voice heard, and it's lost in corporate radio, so please keep listening and supporting our station.
And thank you for listening to Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. KCR's talk radio, so call in, 331-9255, 331-9255. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one near you. Generally cloudy today with a high of 27, and that's it. It goes from 25 degrees right now to 27 degrees later. And it's mostly clear tonight with a low of 15. And Tuesday is going to be 36 degrees with sunny skies. And that's going to be the high of, a high for Tuesday is 36 degrees. And Tuesday night, partly cloudy, a low around 25 degrees. And Wednesday, going up to 43 degrees. It's going to be overcast with a slight chance, about a 25% chance of rain shower throughout the day with a high of 43 degrees and a few clouds on Wednesday night, low around 30. Let's get back to the on-air studio for this last half hour of our Medical Monday with Dr. Eric Stamberg and Robin Baker.
All right, welcome to the last half hour of this morning's show. We're going to finish up with a little segment on marijuana from a medical point of view. All right, so I gave you a little review and summary of what marijuana is, what it does. So what are the medical uses? Well, where's the evidence? Again, we can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I think, drinking orange juice decreases your risk of cancer. We have to study this stuff, and anyway, so from a medical point of view, what does marijuana potentially help? Well, it does relieve nausea in certain patients with certain conditions, certain cancers, side effects of medication like chemotherapy. It can also relieve chronic symptoms of nausea in other conditions. It can stimulate appetite in people who have what are called wasting conditions, which can also be cancers, conditions like HIV. It has been shown to decrease neuropathic pain by about 30%. And that's an interesting discussion because I'm hearing this a lot. It's not really proven, but it's postulated that marijuana use can therefore decrease someone's need to use opioid medication. The answer is great. If that works, that's good. It does decrease the rate of neuropathic pain by about 30%, and that's a common reason why someone may be on chronic opioid medication. It helps a lot of neurologic conditions, multiple sclerosis. It cuts down on pain and spasticity, also by about 30%. It helps with pain, people with cancer. Again, 30% seems to be the number. With people with that subset of seizures that might respond to marijuana, medical marijuana, it does cut down their rate of seizures by 50%. It cuts down discomfort and symptoms for people with spinal cord injury. Does it help with anxiety and depression? What do you think?
I'm not sure.
Right, it's complicated. It really, the evidence is not gone one way or the other. And that also shows you, we talked about the role of politics, and for example, so you can get a medical marijuana card in New York State for certain type of emotional conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder, but the evidence is really not strong that it makes a difference one way or the other. It's complicated. I would worry that someone is self-medicating their emotional condition with marijuana, just like I would worry if they're self-medicating their emotional condition with alcohol or other drugs. I would like to think that if marijuana was somehow part of their treatment, it was in conjunction with other medications. But California was one of the first states to allow medical marijuana, it's in quotes, and they really just did it so unregulated and kind of set up this cottage industry. You can go and open your phone and just Google a medical marijuana card in California. You'll get a medical professional who, for a fee, will give you a medical marijuana card. So the prospect of a bunch of 25-year-olds, being given medical marijuana to help with their anxiety, I feel like there's a lot more that we could probably do to help that 25-year-old proceed with their lives rather than, habitually use marijuana.
Right.
So what's the take home? Well, a lot of people ask about medical marijuana, and a couple caveats. The biggest caveat is it's not covered because it wasn't really done through proper channels, through the FDA or whatever. So insurances won't pay for medical marijuana. So it could be costly. The price has come down. But some people choose to get it and pay for it. I just think that as we trend towards legalization, the medical role will minimize.
What are the differences between having a good source and getting medical marijuana? What are the differences there?
Yeah, I got you. The idea that it's regulated and therefore we know what's in it. And I think there's some value to that, especially knowing how there's such a problem with substances obtained by other ways, being laced with something, So I think there's a valid argument there that we might as well have it regulated and taxed and rather than just kind of allow it to be illegal and therefore not regulated and not taxed. I guess that's a valid argument. I just worry about increased use overall. I feel like in a way we have our hands full with alcohol, so now we're going to add this to it. And I do worry about excessive use in kids. Again, we talked about the potency. This is not your 1970s marijuana. This is potentially 20 times more potent, and that troubles me. Anyway, did I exhaust this subject?
I always remember George Washington saying everyone should have at least 6 hemp plants at their farm. I've always loved that anecdote. I've always loved that, and it's interesting. All the roller coaster rides we've taken with this plant, with this particular, with this particular bush.
When I was reviewing it, they talk about hemp versus marijuana. Hemp does have THC at a much lower potency,
right?
So and hemp does have other uses, that people.
That's what we had for rope
and really homely shirts that look like burlap sacks.
Yes.
The latest in hemp fashion. I'm like, wow, that's
so comfy.
Yeah, that had potatoes in it yesterday. Now it's a hemp shirt. But anyway,
potentially, like what I was trying to get straight in my head was that, like you're getting stoned.
Right.
So, I mean, is there a nicer way to say that? I mean, sounds so, but other medications can make you feel like that too. Even some like antihistamines can make you feel.
That's a good point.
Have that type of same feeling. So can you speak to that? Like just general medications can do that.
And one thing we've said on the show is that I think most over-the-counter meds should not be over-the-counter. I think they're all dangerous meds. And Benadryl is a great example. Now, some of these meds are old, so they kind of predate any FDA supervision. Their authorization is grandfathered in, so it's hard to undo that. But Benadryl is very sedating. And very good studies have shown about as much impairment from Benadryl as from alcohol with driving, for example. So you're absolutely correct. So if your argument is that it has its dangers, but so do a lot of other things, I'll engage you. I will. But I also want people to understand that it has dangers. That doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Just to say it's just as dangerous as alcohol doesn't mean you're still saying it's dangerous.
Right.
So that's all.
Yeah, interesting.
So look, if you think if people ask me, do I qualify for medical marijuana? If they have there's a list of qualifying conditions. They usually include most neurologic conditions, MS, seizures, chronic pain is a potential use, and we did quote some data that did show 30% relief in symptoms, so there is some validity there, and some psychological conditions like post-traumatic stress it can be used, and then also wasting conditions, HIV, cancers, conditions where they might benefit from that. That kind of sums it up. All right. So what else do we want to discuss for this morning? I wanted to talk, about something that I feel has been helping me. A very simple thing. So I don't know if it's any secret in this show, but I do suffer with postnasal drip. By the way, how's it seem today?
A little better. You haven't had to.
A lot better.
Click that.
So I did go recently.
Silencer the whole time.
I did go recently to see one of our guests, Dr. Corpus, Michael Corpus, a local ear, nose, and throat doctor out of Red Hook.
Otolaryngologist.
I can't say that. But
it's a hard one.
Yeah, ENT.
I've been practicing.
You have been practicing. And he felt that a lot of my symptoms were due to acid reflux, which he says is a common cause of postnasal
Interesting,
drip.
right? You think that it's postnasal drip, like coming down from the top, but it's actually coming up from the bottom.
And he recommended alkaline water. So water normally is neutral. It's not acidic. It's not alkaline. I think it's a little bit one way or the other. I have to remember 7.4 or something like that. You remember your pH scale, Robin?
No, I don't.
Dan probably does. So it says scale of 14.
What's pH anyway?
Oh, well, now you're
you're going to have to explain this.
It's hydrogen ions.
Okay.
So pH, a normal pH neutral is 7, and it's a scale of 1 to 14. So the lower or below 7, the more acidic something is. Acidic.
Mm-hmm.
And greater than 7, the more basic or alkaline it is. So if you have stomach acid, it's acidic, and it causes a lot of your symptoms. So he recommended alkaline water, and I ordered a box online of a product that I'm not going to hype because I don't care one product versus the other. It's just alkaline water, but it maintains a pH of 9.5, They make some other claims regarding the healthiness of this, but certainly from the point of view of just neutralizing your stomach acid, it has worked very, very well, and it has helped really control a lot of my symptoms of reflux, as well as, I think, improve the post-nasal drip.
Because you do take like medicine for that as well, don't you?
Yeah, and in a way, the medicine may not be helping that much. I take stuff to treat kind of almost like allergy, Allegra, which is an antihistamine, and I use a nasal spray, Flonase. So I just found this a nice, simple thing that seems to be helping my symptoms.
So you might be able to alleviate needing to take the Flonase and
thinking about
Allegra.
I'm thinking about withdrawing.
It's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing that just a balance of between alkaline and acid is doing the trick. That's fascinating.
I would beware of other claims some of these product makers make, regarding the value of alkaline water, that it somehow helps brain function and cardiac function, and but
it's the same with electrolytes too. We have to be sure that they're really giving us extra electrolytes in certain waters.
That was one little.
Why can't you just take some like Alka-Seltzer? Isn't that alkaline?
Alka-Seltzer is complicated. Alka-Seltzer has an alkaline component, but it actually, old-fashioned Alka-Seltzer had aspirin in it. So the idea was that it would kind of help you with stomach upset, like a hangover, for example. So the aspirin would help your headache, and the alkaline portion would maybe help your stomach upset. But aspirin, the medical name for aspirin, ASA, acetylsalicylic acid. And what happens if people take too much aspirin? They get things like ulcers. So it was a little counterproductive, Alka-Seltzer. There are newer formulations that kind of take the aspirin portion out of it.
So aspirin is an acid?
Yes.
It actually is an acid. Okay.
And long-term use will erode the lining of the stomach and lead to ulcers or gastritis, so it's a little counterintuitive. It was a complicated product, Alka-Seltzer, but it did kind of help if it didn't upset your stomach too much. It helped your headache, and then also the alkaline portion would relieve your stomach, the acidic part of your stomach. So it would help, maybe, unless, of course, the aspirin portion upset your stomach, made it worse.
Interesting.
And also marketing, the pop, fizz, the medicinal.
Oh, what a relief it is.
And just the carbonation, by the way, is an interesting thing that helps soothe your stomach. So that's sort of the behind Alka-Seltzer.
There's another interesting therapy we've been kind of going with, which is the light therapy.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and I was, again, I'm going to advocate for that. The days are still short; they're actually getting a little bit longer now, but we're heading towards real winter now. January, February, 25 degrees. Today's not going to get higher than 30 degrees. So the importance of light therapy. Again, certain things I file under doesn't hurt you, and may help you. Therefore, it's okay to do. So you could get a decent lamp for $30 to $50. You certainly don't have to get this $100 lamp, and it might help you feel better, in the morning. So yeah, I have been recommending that.
Yeah, we gave some to our kids for Christmas.
We did, and my daughter sent me a picture. One of her cats, I guess, likes the light. I wonder if the cat just likes the warmth of the light.
I don't know. The cat's rolling on the light and basking in the light and sleeping by the light.
The cat's been very depressed. Okay, so let's return to the more important subject of the day for the rest of the show, though, which is COVID and how we're going to go through our week in the coming weeks. People, if you're not vaccinated, please do it. I don't know how more directly I can
encourage.
You encourage. Whatever you think is wrong with the vaccine, you're just not correct.
I think one takeaway from today's discussions, especially with Dr. Marc Tack, is we consume crazy amounts of things that we don't know what the ingredients are. What the heck is going on with worrying about what the ingredients are in the vaccination? My God, it's not. It's only going to kick up your immune system. That is a huge takeaway for today. Is that we do. just look at the ingredients on your, like on your soup or something like that. And you don't have any idea what you're eating. You're not going to research every little thing that's in that soup or cereal. Just go for it.
Right. I think some of it, I think we could do a better job. The CDC, for example, I wish they would stop calling something an emergency approval and call it emergency authorization. Just a little change of semantics might help. Because I remember being confused by the information. When I went up for the shot, they handed me the stuff, and it's like, not authorized by FDA. But then down below, emergency approval. No wonder people are confused. So we could resolve that a little bit.
Well, it is approved now, so
I think only
that's
the
not even an
Moderna
issue.
is, unfortunately. I don't know if the Pfizer ever got official approval, which is frustrating.
No, I think it did.
Did it? We can look that up. I don't want to give misinformation, but I guess I am.
All right, we'll look that up. But
please get vaccinated. Please get boosted if you need a boost. If you have not been boosted, you have to continue to mask. You're probably, if you're in public, you really should probably go with an N95 mask to do a better job of preventing. Although, again, another thing I see misinformation. You'll hear people say masking doesn't work. It does work. All those years of surgeons wearing masks while they operate on you, what is it? All of a sudden, that doesn't mean anything?
Yes, it does work.
All of a sudden, my post-nasal drip's acting up a little bit. It's alkaline water. You give it back.
You see the surgeon just walking into the surgery.
Yeah, with no mask
no
on.
gloves. Just walk in.
Medical history. So we've had 4 presidents that have been assassinated. And, of course, we all know Abe Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. We kind of tend to forget about Garfield. Andrew Garfield? What was Garfield's first name? Andrew Garfield's the actor. What was Garfield's first name? Arthur?
I can't remember.
Oh, my God. We can't remember this guy's first name. And McKinley. But Garfield actually died about 3 months after he was shot. And he's felt to have died by medical malpractice. The doctors spent so much time and energy in non-sterile ways trying to get this bullet fragment out of him that eventually they made him septic and he died. So...
Right, the gloves and the mask, they're important.
Yes.
James A. Garfield.
What is it?
James Garfield.
Yeah. Not Andrew Garfield. You know who Andrew Garfield is?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, one of the Spider-Man. So, yeah, that's why I brought it up, So, that was obviously in an era where there was not an acknowledgement of sterile process. So masks do help and masks do work. Once again, want people to be polite and kind to workers who are in the position of maybe asking people to put a mask on or whatever. Whatever you feel. Don't take it out on them. Come on. That's not right. Let's have some manners and respect with how we treat each other. Do you agree with that, Robin?
100%.
Understand that there is the pill treatment we talked about, so you might be a candidate or you might have someone who's a candidate for that. That's why you should consult with your physician if you're ill with COVID. At least adhere to the rules that the CDC released last week with the 5-day quarantining. Although, as Dr. Tack pointed out, he doesn't really agree with them.
What do you recommend as far as testing going forward? I mean, do you feel like people are over-testing themselves or, buying up all these tests, at-home tests, and then testing themselves every couple of days? I mean, what's actually accurate? How should we proceed with this?
Right. I would caution against stockpiling. I don't think that, times like this maybe brings out the worst instinct. By the way, one anniversary that we didn't remember much over the past fall was the 20th anniversary of the anthrax scare. Remember that? It kind of was in the wake of 9/11, and the treatment for anthrax was Cipro. And I remember fielding a lot of requests from people to have a prescription for Cipro just in case, So it's kind of the same idea. Let's be responsible consumers and citizens here. If you need some COVID tests, hopefully you'll be able to obtain them. But remember, the one reason people probably are not able to obtain them is that they've been over purchased. So that's important too. I do worry about lack of ability to testing, and
it really is a conundrum because I have friends, good family members, close family members who are in need of tests for traveling. And it just seems like a catch-22 where the systems in place are requiring you to test, but the ability to test is you're being stopped from testing. It's not available to you. It is available. I mean, some places in our county are charging a lot of money to do it.
I know that's not right.
And then people are just paying, through the roof prices to get a test that can be acquired for free, like if it's covered by your physician. But it seems to me there should be. I mean, we're in this long enough that if they want the airlines to keep going and they want. This is commerce, right? This is the economy. This is what keeps people going, keeps communities alive. So if you want people to travel, you should make it easy for them to test before they go,
right?
And availability to test wherever they're headed, so they can test when they get there, or test before they come back. I mean, right? It's common sense, but for some reason. This is not something that's being done. So,
Dr. Stamberg,
yes,
that gives us another conundrum, which is the difference between having a home test and not documenting it at all, anywhere, and having a home test that you're negative for and taking it to the airport. Do they accept that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it'll be out of my control. If someone consults me, particularly if it's a telemed visit and they want to show me the test, I have no reason to then want them to go get another test. So I think home testing is fine. I don't know how how do they prevent someone from kind of saying, "Here's my test" when it's really not their test. I don't know the answer to this. I think that this is something that is probably beyond what we can figure out at this time.
A couple weeks ago, the county gave out a huge number of tests.
Yes.
I think in the thousands, if I'm remembering right. And that's good for us. That's obviously good for us, so that we can take action on what the results are. But none of it's documented.
No.
Very little of it, anyway.
That's right. These are Maybe we'll get better answers next week to this.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
I do want to caution people against providers in our greater community that are really prescribing incorrect therapies for COVID. Dr. Tack could not have been more direct about ivermectin. Said if it helped, he would be prescribing it left and right. But it doesn't. It doesn't help. And the prospect that someone would waste valuable time with treatment that is ineffective. There's a provider in particular who has been treating people with ozone treatments and vitamin C infusions. I'm not going to mention anyone's name, but I would really caution someone that. By the way, you have to pay for that, and it's not cheap. So it's an expense for you as well. A couple admissions have been linked to other providers in the community who are alternative, and these people come in very sick. Dr. Tack gave the story of someone who died. So really, stick with the standard treatments. All right, especially now that the pill is approved.
Yeah.
So we are nearing the end of this morning's show, the first show of this year, Robin.
Well, Happy New Year, Dr. Stamberg. Have you set any resolutions for yourself, or are you going to abandon resolutions and just say, going to stick with...
I am what I am.
Stick with being, striving for health every day?
No, we talked before New Year's about resolutions, how I kind of think they're okay. I just think that you should be realistic and not beat yourself up if it doesn't work. It's like quitting smoking. You just choose another day and try again.
I like the idea of resolutions being something that's going to be positive for you,
right,
that you're actually looking forward to and actually welcoming as a part of your new lifestyle for the year. That's a great way to look at resolutions, as something that's kind of moving forward, and that you're actually inviting and enjoying rather than always
dreading.
thinking of, other than like all of these resolutions we make that cause dread and
stress,
dismay and stress.
My son Sam was at Mac. I guess it was Saturday, which was the first, right?
Mac Fitness.
Yeah, Mac Fitness. And he said it was packed. Busiest day of the year at the gym. By the way, Mac Fitness requires vaccinations.
Yep.
Bless them. I certainly am a lot more comfortable going there as a patron. All right, we're going to end this show. Next week we have a guest. His name is Niraj Hashandani. He is a internal medicine specialist going to be practicing in Highland. So he's going to be joining us, and we shall see you then. Have a good week.
Bye, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stamberg, thank you so much. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank, many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley and one near you. It's now 9 o'clock a.m., Monday, January 3rd, 25 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. Thank you for sharing the morning with us and participating in Kingston Community Radio, KCR AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. We invite you to be with us for a terrific Tuesday tomorrow morning with Nina Postapak and Cameron Rylands. We now return you to Magic 92.5.